There is a kind of quiet that belongs only to men who are building something the world cannot yet see, and Emeka Osei knew that quite well. This is African Folktales by Mazike. Here, every story has a lesson. Kindly like and subscribe if you want similar stories like this one. The alarm did not wake him. He had been awake for 40 minutes already, lying on his back in the dark of his single-room apartment in Accra, staring at a ceiling that had no answers, but had learned to listen. The fan overhead turned slowly, not because the night was hot, though it was, but because Emeka had long ago stopped noticing the heat. He had trained himself to be indifferent to discomfort. His father had started that lesson. Life had finished it. He was 31 years old. He earned a respectable salary as a structural engineer at Mensa and Partners, a mid-sized firm that built bridges and commercial buildings across the greater Accra region. His colleagues liked him. His supervisors trusted him. Nobody feared him, which was fine. He was not trying to be feared. He was trying to understand something about numbers, about patterns, about the hidden geometry of how wealth actually moved through the world. He got up before the alarm. He always did. The firm's site office was a prefabricated unit beside a half-finished overpass in the Tema Industrial Corridor. By 6:45 a.m., Emeka was already at his desk with a thermos of black tea and 3 open browser tabs, 2 work-related, 1 that had nothing to do with bridges. His colleague Bright arrived at 7:10, dropped his bag, and immediately noticed the tab Emeka closed. "Still looking at those crypto things?" Bright said, not unkindly, the way you'd say, "still jogging at midnight," to a man you respected but didn't entirely understand. "Reading," Emeka said, a distinction he always made. "Reading or spending?" Emeka said nothing, which was also a kind of answer. Bright laughed, poured himself water from the dispenser, and moved on. He was a good man who trusted banks. Emeka did not hold that against him. The years had shaped Emeka the way rivers shape stone, not violently, but with the patient insistence of something that has nowhere else to be. He had grown up in Kumasi, the 3rd son of a man who repaired electronics for a living. His father, Augustine Osei, had not been wealthy by any measurement the world uses, but he was precise. Every tool in his workshop had a place. Every decision had a reason. He never borrowed money he hadn't mentally repaid before the conversation ended. And whenever Emeka watched him work, soldering board by board, testing circuit by circuit, his father would say things that sounded simple and turned out not to be. What you can touch cannot vanish overnight. The man who panics first loses twice. Risk is not the enemy of safety, ignorance is. Emeka had carried those lines through university, through his first engineering job in Takoradi, through the move to Accra, where the opportunities were larger and the loneliness was a different flavor. He had carried them the way you carry something you don't yet know as a map. His apartment, 1 room, 1 window, a mattress that had seen better years, a desk that was really a dining table, that was really a research station. He cooked simple food. He wore clean, functional clothes. His shoes were polished every Sunday. Not vanity, but discipline. His father had taught him that too. He sent money home every month without fail, not a large amount, but never late. And every night after his work was done, after the structural calculations were filed and the site report submitted, Emeka sat at his desk and studied a different kind of architecture, the architecture of markets, the geometry of risk, the mathematics of things most men his age dismissed as speculation or gambling or someone else's business. He was not speculating, he was studying. There is a difference. The project was called Meridian Chain. It was not on any mainstream financial platform. It was not discussed in the newspapers. It appeared in a thread he found at 2 a.m. on a Tuesday in a forum populated mostly by developers, mathematicians, and a small colony of very serious men from places like Lagos, Nairobi, Singapore, and Kyiv who didn't sleep at normal hours either. The white paper was 47 pages. Emeka read it 3 times. The 4th time he began marking it up. What struck him was not the promise. Every ICO made promises, and promises were the cheapest commodity in digital finance. What struck him was the architecture. The consensus mechanism was novel. The team behind it had published verifiable academic work. The tokenomics were structured in a way that suggested someone had actually thought about long-term incentives rather than a short-term exit. He ran the numbers. Then he ran them again using different assumptions. Then he built a small model on a spreadsheet and stress-tested it with pessimistic inputs. Even under bad conditions, the model held. He closed his laptop at 4 a.m. and lay on his mattress listening to the fan turn. He had $5,000 in a savings account. It had taken him 3 years to accumulate it, setting aside money with a precision that his banking app probably found suspicious. That money was his margin, his emergency buffer. the closest thing he had to a parachute. Every sensible voice he had ever heard, from school teachers, uncles, financial advice columns, said the same thing. Do not risk your savings. Do not gamble. Do not trust things you cannot hold. But his father had also said, risk is not the enemy of safety, ignorance is. He was not ignorant. He had read 47 pages 4 times. He had built a model. He had stress-tested it. He had sat with a decision long enough that it no longer felt like a decision born of excitement or fear, which were the 2 worst parents a financial choice could have. This felt like something else, something colder and more certain. He slept for 2 hours. He did not dream. He did not move immediately. That was the thing people never understood about Emeka. They assumed that conviction meant urgency. It didn't. Conviction meant he could afford to wait. He spent 2 more weeks watching the project. He joined a developer channel and asked 3 technical questions under a pseudonym. The answers came from someone who clearly knew what they were doing. He asked Bright once at lunch, carefully, without revealing anything, what he thought about early-stage crypto projects. Bright laughed. I think they're for people who like losing money quickly instead of slowly. Emeka nodded and ate his rice. He respected Bright's opinion. He simply didn't share it. The night he decided was a Wednesday. There was nothing special about it. The city outside made its ordinary sounds, a generator running somewhere down the street, a dog that had been arguing with the darkness for an hour, distant music from a bar he had never visited. The apartment was exactly the same as it always was. He sat at his desk for a long time before opening his laptop. He thought about his father. He thought about the white paper. He thought about the 3 years it had taken to save this money and what those 3 years had felt like. The early mornings, the deferred pleasures, the deliberate and unglamorous accumulation of something small. He thought, if I am wrong, I start again. I have started from nothing before. He thought, if I am right. He did not finish the thought. He had trained himself not to. Fantasy was a fog. Clarity was a flashlight. He preferred flashlights. He opened the platform. He located his position. He looked at the number on his screen. $5,000. For exactly the amount of time it took to confirm he was not acting from fear or excitement. Then he moved his cursor to the button. There was a pause. Outside, the dog finally went quiet. The generator hummed. Somewhere in the building above him, a door closed softly. Emeka clicked by. He closed the laptop. He washed his face. He went to sleep. 18 days later, he was eating breakfast, instant oats, the same breakfast he had eaten for 3 years, when his phone buzzed on the table beside him. A price alert. He had set it weeks ago and half forgotten about it. He looked at the number on the screen. He looked at it again. He put the spoon down. Engineers are trained to check their work when the output surprises them. Emeka checked his work. He opened the portfolio app. He refreshed it. He looked at the chart, which was doing something he had modeled as a possibility, but had categorized in his more honest moments under best-case scenario. The number was not an error. He sat very still for a long moment, the way a man sits when the ground has shifted beneath him, and he is waiting to learn whether it will shift again or hold. Outside his window, a craw was going about its morning, hawkers calling out, tra-tras hunking, the ordinary machinery of a city that did not know or care what had just happened inside a one-room apartment near the Tima corridor. The fan turned overhead.
Emeka's oats went cold. He did not move. He was doing what he always did in the aftermath of a significant calculation. He was making sure he understood what the numbers were actually saying before he allowed himself to feel anything about them. It took 4 minutes. Then, slowly, something moved across his face. Not a smile exactly, not yet. Something quieter than that. Something that looked from the outside almost like recognition. As if some part of him, the part that had read 47 pages 4 times, the part that had built the model, the part that had learned from a man who repaired circuits in a Kumasi workshop, had always known this moment was somewhere on the horizon, as if his life had just split cleanly down the middle. Before on one side, after on the other. And Emeka Osei, structural engineer, third son, careful man, standing exactly at the seam. In every man's life, there is one morning that looks like all the others and is nothing like any of them. The wise man does not celebrate too soon. He checks the ground first. Then he takes one careful step. End of part 1. Part 2, when money started watching him, coming next. Only real risk takers will answer this. Would you have clicked buy? Yes or no? Kindly like, subscribe, and share if you find this story engaging.